Faye Farron is a private investigator specializing in scams that target the elderly. She recently was featured in a Vanity Fair article for breaking a huge sweetheart fraud case, which is now going to trial, I think, in the fall in San Francisco in my office, so we won't be able to talk about it too much because I can't do that.
You can't stop me.
But I do have, I can't stop you, shush. We have the Vanity Fair, this is actually from this month, May 1998, and of course the article was written by very famous writer Jack Olson, who's also now come out with a book about your case, which is Hastened to the Grave. If you can see that close up, it's a beautiful cover, actually. What is this?
Nice.
What is on the cover
It
here?
is the death card. It's a tarot card, and it's the death card.
Okay, this is actually pretty serious stuff. And as a detective for the Rat Dog Detective Agency. We could explain that with one sentence. The Rat Dog Detective Agency
because I find people like a rat dog finds rats.
And you have.
And I have.
And okay, when you started being interested in sweetheart scams, what drew you to this kind of work? Well,
actually, it was the case that began this whole case. It was one of the which we can't talk about, but that's what happened is we got into it. But as that happened and this case progressed and went off, we discovered that in the Bay Area it was not unique. What is happening in the book is not unique at all.
A sweetheart scam, and we can mention that this is about alleged killings by a family of Gypsies who were living here, and how many people are alleged that they killed?
They think at least 4, but it could be a whole lot more.
Okay, and how did they do this? What was the sweetheart scam is what? A typical one?
A typical sweetheart swindle, well, first of all, let's back up. Sweetheart swindles can happen to anybody. They don't necessarily happen to the elderly. You may feel like you've been swindled in love, you know? I mean, it does happen all the time, but the elderly are certainly a target. But there's 2 really ways that it happens. One is a crime of opportunity. You have something like, perhaps, Anna Nicole Smith, who meets an older man, he's rich, she gets married. Is she in love? Who knows? Is it fraud? Who knows? And that sort of thing. But it's a crime of opportunity. It would be that you happen to move next door to somebody, you happen to be in a position where you're able to think, maybe I can make money like this. Crime of opportunity. But it also could be a business. And in this case, and what we're finding in the Bay Area is we have found 30 cases of sweetheart scams where really the Gypsies are the ones who are definitely doing this, are looking at it as a business. They actually see the old men, they target them, they follow them, they do surveillance. Sometimes they hire private investigators to do background checks on them, find out how much money they have, and then they go in with a line such as, do you remember me? I used to come and see you when I was a little girl. And if the older man is such that the dementia allows him to say, oh yeah, I think so, then they know that they have a target, and they move in and milk them for years and take everything that they have. And it really is happening not only all over the Bay Area, but we're getting calls now from all over the nation. It's just amazing.
Again, from who? Relatives who are worried?
From people who, in fact, we had a call from someone that said, this happened to my father in San Francisco, and he died 2 weeks ago, and we really think he was poisoned, and it was by a Gypsy, a member of the Gypsy community.
Now, in the case of poisoning, which the Foxglove case, of course, is all about, that is taking it to an incredible extreme.
Very unusual.
A lot of times, it's what, money?
Yes, what it is, and the thought is this person's going to die anyway, and really, if you move into someone's life and you do take care of them and you end up with their money, I don't personally have a problem with that as long as you treat them well. Where the fraud comes in and where the abuse comes in is when you do it for the money and you obviously let them live in squalor, you trick them into signing papers. That's fraud.
What are some of the ways in which, if the viewers, people watching tonight, can know, are signs that they should, you know, like a red flag that maybe something's going on with an older neighbor that they know, or a loved one, a relative?
Well, one of them are sort of these unnatural friendships that form between a younger person and an older person. If you have an older person in your neighborhood and suddenly someone is coming to see them and they're this young, beautiful girl, and, you know,
a man, perhaps? A young man?
Or it could be the other direction. It could also be a caretaker con. But if this is the sort of man who couldn't have gotten a date like that 40 years ago, and now suddenly has one, you know, it might be a little suspect.
You have to have a sense of humor in your business, don't you?
Yes, you do, because you see it all.
Yeah. And you know, again, besides the whining and the dining, sometimes you're saying this takes quite a long time.
Oh, absolutely. It can take years, and it often does. And it will start out with requests like, I need a car to come and see you, and my sister has a business, and if we become independent, then we can take care of you in your old age. And so the older person feels like this is their surrogate family, and they're investing in their own future. And of course, everything is drained. And we've seen cases, for example, where, you know, somebody needed a check for $10,000 for an operation. So he wrote a check for $10,000, and they said, there was something wrong with that check, you need to write another one.
Whoa.
So, you know, those are the sort of signs.
And of course, if you're dealing with someone who has dementia, they may not even remember that they wrote a first check in the...
They absolutely don't.
What about the gimmick where you say, well, let me do your grocery shopping? Mm-hmm. And then what? The checkbook doesn't even...
Right.
Stay in the desk anymore. They got it.
They've got it. And what a common thing that is done with checks is that the checks are taken like from the back of the checkbook. So when it comes back, you don't notice that any checks are missing. You've got them all in there, and then you get toward the end and they're just gone.
Oh, this is heartbreaking stuff too. If you're
is.
worried about a loved one who isn't in the same state or the same city, can you call other offices across the country and say, you know, senior centers, and say, can you check? You know, can you check on my so-and-so?
You know, they're really, the problem with, and the reason that the elderly are targeted is because they're in a position where nobody does watch out for them. You get old, and when you're a little kid, you say, okay, you're 16 now, you get your license. But what happens with an elderly is there's no cutoff point.
So you've got to be really, really there for them at least, or get a friend, someone to watch over. Okay, if you want to get a hold of Faye, and thank you, Faye, very much, you can call her at 415-957-0220 at the Rat Dog Dick Detective Agency, and we're going to be back after this.